UK Crime Book Club, Double Trouble tonight. I don't know what I've never said double trouble ever before in my life, but that's a good start. So we have GD Wright and we have Gillian McAllister, and I'm absolutely thrilled. Can I ask you both to introduce yourselves and say a little something about the books? So Gaz, would you like to start?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, everyone. My name's Gary. Pen name's GD Wright. I'm the author of After the Storm, which is there. It's my debut novel. It came out 2 weeks ago on Thursday. It's quite a miserable one, actually. It's you see the tagline there: 2 children go into the sea, only one come out alive. It's about primarily about 2 families and a tragedy that happens when they go to the beach. One of the sets of parents is looking after the other set of parents' child. Other parents' child doesn't come home. And it's the fallout from that, basically, how it affects the families and how it affects the community.
Thank you. Gillian.
Hello, I'm Gillian McAllister. I'm the author of 8 novels, I think. This one is my latest, which came out in paperback a couple of months ago. It tells the story of Julia, who is a police officer, but more importantly, a mother. And a year before the novel begins, she covered up a crime that her daughter committed. And in the novel's opening pages, she is the lead police officer. I'm very conscious that Gary used to be a police officer, and I'm not using the right terms, on a missing person investigation. And on the first day of that investigation, she walks to her car, which is parked some way from the police station. And she gets in it and she looks in the rearview mirror and she realizes that she's not alone. And there's a man in the back wearing a balaclava who says one word to her, which is drive. And over the course of their drive, he tells her that he knows exactly what she did. And she is now his mole on this missing person investigation. And she's got to do everything he says. So that is just another missing person, and it's out now.
You were both really mean. I had so much fun reading these books, but oh my word, the things you put the readers through, never mind your poor characters.
It's a kind of sadism.
At least it's on the page. Could be worse.
Check the search history.
Everybody always talks about the search history, but now you've said it, we have to ask, what is the weirdest, oddest, darkest, I don't know, what's the search that you've done that stands out to you in some sort of way?
Do you know what? I've just finished book number 6 for me. Obviously not book number 6 released, but it's called The 4 Hours of Murder. So I was looking up why people commit murder. What is the reason that people kill people? And there's a really interesting article. I can't remember. It was like a research document or something like that. And it talks about the 4 L's of murder. So there are 4 reasons that people kill: lust, loot, loathing, and love. So I made a story up based on that, and I wrote it as a screenplay first, and then reverse engineered it into a novel. But yeah, that's my search history that will get me arrested.
And that's a great title in itself, isn't
That's
it?
a great title and a great concept.
Yeah. So Gillian, research, anything odd from Google?
At the moment, I'm writing about a Mexican drugs cartel, as you do, and I've been in touch with a border official who told me that the best way to get cocaine across the border is to go on a holidaymaker coach because they never search them. So it's pretty interesting.
I don't even know where to begin with that. I'm not sure they should be telling you that.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm going to tell like hundreds of thousands of people. He was like, it's fine. It's well known.
Either that or it's a fake tip. So they just kind of thinking,
yeah,
right,
maybe it's a bluff.
So we'll get all of the, it's a double bluff, yeah. Get all of the holiday makers coming back with all the stash of whatever people bring back.
Yeah.
I dread to think, absolutely dread to think. After some of the border shows that I've watched and kind of the animals and things that people try to take to Australia or wherever else.
Is that Australian one? Is it Border Force Australia or something like that? Yeah, some of the stuff you see on there is weird. Really weird.
And the weird way that people do, I thought you were actually going to say, Gillian, that people were smuggling this and this was the way they were doing it, this was where they were smuggling it. So I didn't think you were going to say holiday coaches, so you're still good with the twists.
Yeah.
Spoiler
It's
alert.
even when you speak to me.
We've got a few hellos already, so hello to everyone who's already watching.
Hello.
I wanted to ask, we often, I'm sure you get asked this a lot, but your entry into why you became writers, sorry if my camera's flickering like mad, I'm not sure what's going on. Your story about why you became writers, I think is be a nice one to discuss while I try and figure out why I'm flickering everywhere. So, Gaz, do you want to start with
Black
that?
Mirror or something? You're about to become like AI.
Gonna have to switch to the dodgy camera.
Get Joe Callahan involved. My route into writing. So mine was probably a vanity thing. I didn't go to university. I joined the police straight away when I was 18. And in hindsight, I wish I'd gone to uni and got a degree and all that kind of stuff. And so it was almost a show to myself that I could do it. So my dad, he did he dropped out of school when he was 14, and he went back in later life and did a open university degree over 7 years, still having 3 children under the age of 10 or whatever we were, working a full-time job in London, commuted 4 hours each day, and he still did an OU degree. So it was, he proved to himself that he could do something, and mine was very similar. I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do something. It was never intended to be published or anything like that. It was more, proof to myself.
Can I do it?
It was something I could do, yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. So After the Storm is your 5th novel?
No, it's the first.
But you said that your next one is your 6th.
Yeah, so I've written, it was all during COVID, Gilly. So because I've got a bad heart, I had to shield during COVID. And it sort of gave me the time where I could just sit there and, just knock out a few stories. And I did. The first one, After the Storm, was originally self-published as A Parent Apart in 2021. And it only took sort of 6 weeks to write. It was full on all day, every day writing. I think Sam is. Oh, she's back.
I know. Having some sort of different on my own.
It was like a full on 6 weeks of just writing all day, every day, and that was just a solid 80,000 words. And then I just carried on. So I wrote number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and then, as I say, number 6 came along earlier this year. So
wow,
I know.
That's amazing. Will they all be published, do you think?
So I've got a 2-book deal with Avon, and then we'll see where we go after the Avon deal's up and see what happens. But yeah, all good.
Yeah. How prolific.
I've not written a single one yet. And there's
You're on to number 8 now, Gilly.
Yeah.
Number 8.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been, I guess, 8 years, 7 years, 8 years.
Is that your formula? 1 a year? Is that pretty much how it works? So, and I guess, is it paperback and then 6 months later, hardback, then 6 months later paperback? I don't know how it works.
Yeah, that does vary on the time of year that you have the hardback. But yeah, pretty much it's sort of 2 a year format wise. Yeah.
So where was your start?
Well, I never kind of didn't write. I remember writing when I was 12. My dad is a big geek, so we had like quite early adopters of tech. So we had Microsoft Word when I was 12, even though I'm 39, so it's like a long time ago. I wrote a novel then, and I had a blog all through university. And then I was off sick, actually, and I find it very interesting that a lot of writers begin writing during a period of ill health. I had glandular fever very badly, and subsequently they said they think I might have lupus, so they don't really know what caused it. I'm currently in remission, but I wrote my first novel from bed then, and was off work, so queried an agent and was very surprised to get a full manuscript request, and it kind of went from there, although it took me 3 novels with that agent to get a publisher. So it took me like an unusually long time to find a publisher, I think. So yes, but that is how it started back in 2014, so 10 years ago, which is mad.
Yeah. That's about when Lisa Jules started writing like our genre as well, wasn't it?
Oh, she started in, yeah.
Our genre. She started with Rouse Party like donkeys ago, didn't she? But she started, so you and Lisa are like twins all the way through the like thriller.
I'm very pleased to hear that.
Era.
I'll tell her.
You mentioned that you've obviously had a change in career for you guys, and you're writing now. Would you say that from your first book to the sixth one that you're working on, that your process has changed a lot?
Yeah,
or do you write in a similar way than as when you started?
Yeah, so when I started, like I said, that was so it's 2020, I think it was 2020, and it was full on. Like I said, I had the ability, like my brilliant wife, she'd have the kids for me and for us, for the family, but it would allow me just to crack on and write. Whereas it's obviously a bit different now. And at the time, we had a coffee shop as well. So I had to retire from the police when I was 29. I've got a bad heart, like I say. And we bought a coffee shop. And that was, 6 months full on in the summer months. But then we'd have the winter off. So it gave me time then to do it as well. But now I try and treat it like a job, not one I can do 9 to 5, because I could never sit at a keyboard writing all day. That's just far too much for me. I manage normally about 3 or 4 hours of decent writing, and then my brain starts to wander in different places. So I could probably get 3 or 4 hours a day in of decent-ish writing. And I try and get about 2,000 words a day done, which is probably about my sort of chapter length, give or take a few hundred words. But yeah, that's how I go about it.
Gillian, would you say yours has changed, your style, since you first sat down to write?
Probably not. I used to be a lawyer, so I worked around a full-time job. But no, I have a very chaotic process, which comes up all the time in interviews. But unfortunately, I do still do the chaotic process, which is many, many, many drafts of each novel. So I unfortunately, I'm about to deliver my 10th book, and it's been as much of a headache as all the others.
Is it true, Gilly, that you write whatever yours is, say 100,000 words, and then delete and start again?
That is what I do. Yeah, I've done it 10 for 10. I've done it. God knows why. But I would say I'm not the sort of person that I do write to a plan. So it's even madder that I do that. But something happens in the writing where I realise what the novel's about only in the writing. So I usually have some sort of epiphany, never before 70,000 words are down, unfortunately. And it's usually about a twist, like a big twist that needs to be in the book, but often it's about the conceit of it, or the characters just simply wouldn't act in the way that I want them to. So yeah, I start again. But I recently asked Lisa Jewell how many words she writes for every 100,000 she publishes, and she said about 120,000. And my answer is well over 500,000 for each book, which is mental. And I don't advise it. It is just how I happen to do it, unfortunately.
But you say about having like an epiphany. So going up, no spoilers, obviously, but wrong place, wrong time. When did you know what the very last chapter was going to be? There's at the very end, there's that tiny little bit that's almost
just
like
careful, guys. Careful.
I'm being careful. It's almost like I wouldn't call it maybe a prologue. I don't know what it was in your mind, but how did you know when that was going to happen? Was that on the first draft, or was that after you'd got to that point and thought that would be good? Do you see what I mean? Or was it planned from the beginning?
Actually, I knew that the day I had the idea. Right. But Wrong Place, Wrong Time goes back 7,000 days, and the first draft went back 10.
Right.
So it's very different.
I just think when you said chaotic process, I was thinking, oh, okay. So we've got another author here who doesn't write things in order and then patches it all back together. Okay.
No,
I don't think I've ever heard somebody actually ever before say, yeah, I write the full thing and then I delete it and then I write it again.
I heard it on, I think, did you say it on or have you spoken about it on the podcast you do with
Holly it's Seven? Like, unfortunately, it's becoming what I'm known for. Somebody on the radio asked me the other day, I was like, oh no. Yeah, it is. It's an extreme level of dysfunction. That's for sure. I suppose so. It gives me a lot of stress, but it does sort of produce what I hope are good books.
Brilliant books. I'm just really perplexed at how on earth you can do that, because I think I'd forget what I'd written in the first one. The fact that you delete it and then go straight from scratch again, even though you've already got something in your head by then. That's mind-boggling to me. My memory is not that good.
Well, you don't have to have a good memory, because not a word of the first draft makes it into the second. That's the thing.
I'm getting palpitations.
It's often not even the same narrator.
Laura Hamilton, hi Laura, said Wrong Place, Wrong Time is the only Reese Witherspoon book club pick that she's actually enjoyed.
Well, I'm honoured.
I'm glad that's where you went with that, Laura. Although, yeah, I mean, I don't really know how to respond to that. But do you want to tell us a bit about that? Because you've had different things that, and you shared some news recently on your author page as well.
Yes. I mean, yeah, it's quite an interesting experience, really, because my first 6 books here were all bestsellers, and the 6th one got Richard and Judy, which did change things quite a lot for me over here. But I was never a hit in America. I didn't get a deal till my 3rd book, so they published number 3 and then number 2, and they used different titles, which just to add to the confusion, and they sold like almost no copies, so I didn't expect a lot from Wrong Place, Wrong Time until I started writing it. And it's funny because it's a book about a premonition, and I basically experienced one. I came down the stairs after I had sent it off, and I said to my husband, that book's going to sell 1 million copies, and he was like, you're a knob, basically.
Nice supportive husband.
Jekyll and Hyde. But it was a really interesting experience because I got a new US publisher, and they were the only offer, and it wasn't a lot of money. And I got the email in a hotel room when I was by myself, and it came through at like 11:30 at night because it's American time. And I knew I was going to get Reese before I got the email. I knew that's what that email would say. And that is like a really bizarre experience because she picks 10 books a year, So, and I opened the email, and I don't think I slept for 2 full nights, because it's weird when it's your debut because you don't actually know what's normal. Whereas for me, it was my 7th novel. I was quite long in the tooth. I knew what things meant, but I also knew what good things meant when they happened to you. And I rang my husband anyway, and he goes, "What's Reese's book club?" Classic non-author response. But yeah, I knew from that moment that my life had sort of changed forever. And it was quite a strange it was quite a strange experience for like quite an established author to have, I think, and a very amazing one.
So you've had Richard and Judy here, haven't you? You said,
yeah.
Have you had maybe others like the Radio 2 and things like that?
Yeah, Wrong Place, Wrong Time got Radio 2, and it also got Waterstone's Thriller of the Month. It's been very blessed with promos, really. I've sort of basically had all of them, which is incredibly lucky, and I'm so lucky that my publisher kind of is able to do that for me. But yeah, that was the first American one I'd ever had, and it's sort of like the OG American promotion. So yeah,
is that a knock on with? There's just another missing person out there now, isn't it? Is that
yeah?
Is that a like big knock on with that as well then?
Yeah, like Just Another Missing Person got to number 20 on the New York Times, and none of my books had ever had a sniff of it. And actually, Wrong Place, Wrong Time came out in hardback in the May here, and it was the August Reese's pick, and it re-entered the charts here just based on Reese, just posting on Instagram. So yeah, it's the reach is incredible. So yeah, it was an enormously privileged experience, and I will never forget that summer because it just, like, my social media following went up by like 10,000 overnight. Like, you kind of can't imagine the sort of reach of it until it happens to you.
Yeah.
How has your experience as a debut been, Gaz? Because obviously this is kind of a a whole new thing you've been thrown into. You know, not just thrown into, you've worked bloody hard for it. But then, you know, it comes to it. Has it been anything like you expected?
So it's the social media side of it, I think. Like I want to say it's so cringy. Like every single tweet or every single post is buy my book in different ways. Like, here's a nice quote from Gillian McAllister, buy my book. Do you know what I mean? The skin you have to grow is so thick to get through that. But no, it's been so much fun. It has been so much fun just doing it. And it is like being the new kid at school. Like I went to Harrogate, and I'm generally quite an outgoing person. You know, being in the police, I could talk to people. Then having the coffee shop, you spoke to people every day. And it was like being the new kid at school, going to Harrogate and meeting all these new people. But it was really welcoming, and everyone was very friendly, and that was good fun. But no, with regards to like the selling side of it, you know, I had my first signing at Waterstones last week, and they didn't order enough books, so we sold out in 30 minutes. So I'm going to dine off that forever. I sold out Waterstones in 30 minutes. But now it's just, you know, I've got my local radio station tomorrow morning, so it's all like new experiences, and you know, it's fun. Everything is fun.
So going back to the books, because obviously we should talk about the books as well at some point. Start with you again, Gaz. The feelings from this book. And there's so many things that we can't say because they would be spoilers, and it's going to be even harder when I get to you, Gillian. Can't talk about most of what happens in yours, but just reading through, and you've got these two, you know, really close couples who are close friends, and then you ruin their entire lives. Yeah,
and then make it even worse. And then a bit more worse.
If that's even possible, and then a bit worse.
But this is the kind of thing. I mean, it's very sadly this does happen, and it did happen locally to me. So a family came down from London. They brought family friend's child with them, and the family friend's child didn't end up going home. So these things do happen. Now, I was at the very start, I was going to make it that the two families were actually brother and sister or something like that. So the parents, you know, one of them had taken a niece or a nephew to the beach, but I thought my sisters would have lynched me, so we didn't go down that road in the end. But yeah, it's it's based in reality. You know, these things do happen. And that's where I like it to be. And I didn't want any of the characters to be black or white either. I like that lovely grey area in the middle. You know, is what they're doing totally wrong, or can it be justified, or can it be rationalised? But no, it's good fun writing it. It was good fun writing it. And
you definitely you left all the pain in the grey areas.
Yeah.
The hardest thing, isn't it, when you know the kind of bits that you want to talk about? If we ever do a thing where we get people to read the book and then we discuss it, these two would be brilliant for that. But for the rest of it, it's kind of, you don't want to give anything away. So, Gillian, how do you are you're very good at twists, and every time I thought I had something figured out, you'd do something else. And I'd be like, I didn't know that you've just taken me sideways again, like not me sideways. How do you actually discuss the books in interviews without giving things away?
I mean, in Just Another Missing Person, where the missing person is a twist, and the way that I think about things is, what is every other thriller writer going to do? And I thought, okay, they're going to be dead or they're going to run away. And I thought, I don't want to do that. Because I do think I have a readership that would expect something different. And I literally thought about that for about 5 months while editing Wrong Place, Wrong Time and writing it and delivering it. And I suppose the way I discuss it is to talk about it that way, because there is a third option. You just don't know it. And I think when I read a book, I sort of like a reveal, as in who did it, you know, where is this person? But what I like most of all is a twist where you have made the reader make an assumption and then you turn it on its head. And that's what I like to do. So that is sort of how I try and talk about it, but it can sound very mysterious when you're not giving any details away.
I think that's the way sometimes we have to be when we're discussing some of the books, because we could talk about different things and then you think, well, if I say that, it might give that away, but would it really give that away? Because then we're thinking of what happens next there. And I always worry about spoilers. I hate them. I hate getting spoilers beforehand. Really kind of random thought question. We had it's not a random question. It's something that's coming up more and more now. We had a UK Crime Book Club event in Leeds this year, and one of the panels we discussed not spoiler alerts, trigger warnings in books. So I have an opinion on them. My opinion is the more the better, because if somebody needs it, then I don't think that's a bad thing. If you don't like trigger warnings, just don't read the page. It's fairly simple. It's nice and easy for everybody. So how do you both feel about trigger warnings? Gaz is smiling because he knows why I'm asking.
I know why you're asking, because
don't read it out. Don't read out the triggers.
I've got to find it first. I've got that
right at the end.
Yeah. No, there's one at the start which I don't know if you can read it, but it says there are after the storm, although fictional tackles some events and issues that some may find distressing. If you'd like to find out more, please read the content warning note at the back of the book. Yeah. But be warned, it does contain spoilers. So if you need to know the trigger warnings, they're at the back. And the reason I did that was when I said I self-published this back in 2021. There was a really nice lady who messaged me on Instagram, and she said that having read my book, it had sent her into a proper depression, and she'd had to have a month off work because of the themes of the book. And I actually put a post on the UK Crime Book Club Facebook page about 2 months ago, just asking generally people's opinions about trigger warnings. And there are a lot of opinions about trigger warnings there. But that's mine, and that's why I do it. And, you know, as long as my publishers allow me, I'll continue to do it, because I don't see a problem with saying there are content warnings. If you want to know what they are, go to the back of the book. You're not spoiling it for anyone, because you're not saying what they are unless someone actively goes searching for them. Now, there's also the flip argument where someone says, well, I'm reading it on Kindle, so I've then got to go scrolling all the way through a Kindle book to get to the end and read the content warnings. You can't fix everything for everyone, but it's the best I can do. And like I say, it's something that I will continue to do.
Yeah, I feel the same. I think it's just sensible. You never know what someone's dealing with, do you?
It's really difficult, isn't it? Because the argument from some of the members is, well, it's a crime book, you know, you've got to expect there's going to be something bad's going to happen to somebody. But it's such a broad genre that something bad happening to somebody might be fine for the first 50 books you read, and the next one might have you a month off work. So, you know, you've got to be careful. And
there was another argument, Sam, that someone came up with that said, well, you can't cover every trigger warning. What if I'm triggered by, I can't remember, something stupid like, what if I'm triggered by chickens? I said, well, you got to be sensible. You know, you put in things that are going to be the obvious triggers for people, you know, like, you know, it's not, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out what might make someone upset or trigger some bad emotions in them.
You're going to go with the thing that a lot of people would respond to, rather than if you're going to put the rare things, you know, like chickens, for example, then there's not going to be enough people probably to necessarily make that worthwhile. Yeah. I'm sure it would be to the person that was upset by the chicken, but, you know, the idea of, that
wasn't an actual thing, by the way. It was the first thing that came into my mind.
Yeah, no.
I don't know why it was a chicken. I'm sure a psychologist could tell me.
Could interview one for one of your books. Can you tell us about the next book? Can either of you tell us anything yet, or are you not able to talk about what your next book?
Mine is called Into the Fire. It's July next year, and I've got a tagline for it somewhere. It's on Amazon already and Water.
Do you want me to find it?
Yeah, Into the Fire. I think he goes into the ashes. The hero comes out suspect or something like that.
Let's have a look. He runs into the flames a hero. He emerges from the ashes a suspect. Ooh. That is good. That is good.
I didn't come up with that.
But this is why you have these wonderful teams of people that you work with. So can you tell us anything about it yet?
It was originally called Sins of the Past. So it's, our protagonist has some sins from his past that he's dealing with, and those sins are being exposed by his heroism in the future.
Gillian?
Interesting. Yes, I can. So it's coming out in January. It's called Famous Last Words. It's about a woman who wakes up one normal morning and her husband isn't there, and he's left her a cryptic note. And she doesn't know what to make of it, but she goes to work as normal, thinking she must have forgotten where he is. And there's a breaking news alert that says there's a hostage situation developing in central London, and it's being live streamed on Facebook. And the police contact her and they say her husband's caught up in it. And she is very stressed by this, and she thinks he's in danger. And then they tell her they've got to interview her because her husband is the gunman, and he's taken 3 hostages. And it's about why an ordinary man would do that, and also what he meant by his note.
So how do you two go from, I'm sure you get asked this one all the time, but it really interests me with you two in particular because of the different things that I didn't see coming in both books. So I've completely lost my question now. Going back to, I'm thinking about Chris and I'm thinking about Julia. I'm sure it'll come back to me. So Hannah Kelson really likes the approach to trigger warnings. And Sarah Blackburn wants to know, so I always think it's a mean question. Who is your favourite author? Sarah, that is so much pressure.
Well, aside from Gillian, obviously. No, Gillian's books are brilliant. I love Gillian's books. They are very, very good, Gillian. Well done.
Thanks.
This year, this is probably going to be one of your questions, but my favourite book this year has been Jenny Godfrey's The List of Suspicious Things. I think it's brilliant.
I've not read it yet.
It's absolutely brilliant. I've even given it my own tagline. I love this. So, big time crime, small town vibes.
Nice.
But it's really good. And she's just a brilliant person as well. Just like the most friendly, nicest person you'll ever meet. But yeah, her at the moment. Non-crime, Bill Bryson all day long. Absolutely love Bill Bryson. Every single thing he writes is gold.
Gillian?
I blurbed a book a few months ago now as the best thriller I've ever read. And it's called Night Watching by Tracy Sierra. And it's very simple. It's about a woman who is home with her 2 young children. They're all asleep and she hears a footstep on the stairs. But the whole novel plays out. They hide from the intruder in a chimney breast, and the entire novel is set in that chimney breast. And it is amazing. You think she won't be able to pull it off, and she absolutely knocks it out of the park. It's just an amazing novel. So that is my favourite novel of recent times.
Angela said that After the Storm was an emotional roller coaster for her, and she can't wait for your next book, Gaz.
Thanks.
So that got to both have a nice comment from everybody. So going back to the kind of the teams that you work with, so how do you find that whole process of you on your own for long periods of time, and then suddenly you've got lots of other people being involved in different ways? Is that kind of a difficult thing to juggle, or is that just part and parcel and you just kind of get used to it?
Gillian would have a massive team compared to what I've got, I'd guess. But my editor is obviously, as most sort of jobbing authors, my editor is my main point of contact. Her name's Rachel at Avon, and she's brilliant. No point of reference, but I would never want to be away from her because she is so good at what she does. And when I asked for a cast list for the acknowledgements, she sent me through this bit of paper like yay big, and there was all these names that I'd never even heard before. But the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes dealing with everything from sales all the way through to publicity to everything else. I'm very blessed that they gave me a brilliant publicist, Laura Sherlock. She's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, I've had a really good start to my writing career, and hopefully it'll continue for a long time.
Gillian?
Yeah, I find it sort of isn't the solitary pursuit that it used to be. I think I did used to have that sort of fallow period where I was writing and then a publication kind of buzz, but I think I do a lot of travel now, and when you do 2 formats a year, you're kind of always talking about something. What I do find is that I'm quite a private author, so nobody really, like, the hook of my next book is quite different to what it's ended up as, and nobody really knows that until I deliver. And I do find that slightly like discombobulating, where it's just yours, and then I have maybe like 6 editors who work on it at the same time, and that is quite strange, but I quite like it because I just get to the point where I'm ready for it to belong to other people, I think, after the best part of a year with it.
Is that editors across the world?
Yeah, so that is 3 in the UK and 3 in the US, right. And then there are foreign editors, sort of, but they have less input. But yeah, and then there's 2 agents here, and my film agent sometimes looks at it and edits. So the numbers can kind of stack up quite quickly. But yeah, so I've had like the edit for Famous Last Words. There was easily 3,000 comments on the manuscript, which was, I opened it like, oh my God, but they were all like, they all make the book better. So. Yeah.
Was that difficult the first time you've both done that? The first time you get editing notes and you put in your book out into the world slowly, you kind of dipping your toe in a bit with your editors. How difficult is that 3,000 comments sounds like a lot, but isn't really, probably. For most authors, you probably get quite a lot on the first round, definitely. How does it feel? Was it terrifying? Was it exciting? Was it a mixture of all of those?
I just purely found it exciting. It taken me so long to get published. I think it's an enormous privilege. I found nothing bad about my debut. I was like high as a kite for like a year. It's so fun, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, so yeah, my edits, there's different levels of edit. You have your structurals, you have your line edits, and proofs and all that kind of stuff. But my structurals, it was like a literary bloodbath when it came back to me. There was red everywhere. But I didn't mind it because, as Gilly said, like it makes it better. No one's ever doing anything to make it worse. Everyone's trying to make it better. And let's be honest, these people, they deal with it all day, every day. This is what they do. And every suggestion pretty much did really, really enhance what I'd written before. So yeah, it's exciting. I'm very lucky. I'm doing this full time, and not many debut authors would be able to have the capability to do this full time. So I can sit down and crack on, not after a day at work or a day doing things where you just get home and you just want to go to bed. I'm very lucky that it's not lost on me that I am lucky that I can do this. But yeah, so I actually really do enjoy the whole editorial process. Not proofreading, hate proofreading.
I hate proofreading.
Never want to do it again.
I always say I'd rather write a new novel than do a week with my page proofs. I hate it.
You know what? My dad actually did mine for me.
I really relate to that. I don't know why.
He printed it all out. Boring. Like he had reams of paper. And the poor bloke, he just sat there and proofread it while I sat next to him watching TV and pretending I was doing it as well.
I relate.
And he's watching this downstairs.
Yeah, you're not having a brew ready for when you get downstairs now. That's it. You're just going to see, one of those sticks that they use in theatre, those things where it's the hook and they just pull you off. We just see you disappear because your dad's grabbing you.
Do you know what, right? So I did do a proofread as well. It's a lie to say that I didn't. But the amount of stuff that proofreaders find that we can't, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I had a brilliant girl called Rachel Sargent. She did mine. And she actually reviewed the book as well. She's a book blogger, but she's a proofreader as well. And she just found everything. I said to one of the editors, I said, like, how many do we find? And then how many have found beyond that? And she said, well, you found about 250, and she found like another 500 beyond that. Like, oh.
Wow.
And there's still some coming in. People are sending me typos like all the time at the moment as well. So there are some that sneak through. So
there's always some.
What do we do with that, by the way, Gillian? I should ask my editor. But do we just send them off to the editor and get them to change it on the typeset? I guess that's what we do.
You can, yeah. Like if they go to reprint, and definitely in the Kindle edition, you can. I don't bother. Well, I don't read messages like that anymore because I just think it's done. But you can, yeah, for reprints.
I'm the opposite. I absolutely love proofreading. And
really?
Absolutely love it.
Like weirdly like inactive about it. Like whereas writing is active, and sitting and reading my own work is just a Dullsville to me.
And
the thing is, I'm not reading my own. I'm not proofreading my own stuff. Yeah. Proofreading your own must be beyond dismal.
Yeah, and reading for me is like you're skimming. You know, you're taking it in, but you're not taking in all the nuances and all the
totally.
You know, everything that goes with it. So
yeah, you know it too well. I think there's an argument for authors not doing it because I'm not sure.
I am totally down with that. Thank you very much.
Let's start a union.
Just one little message for you here, Gaz. Somebody called David Wright. Some confession, Gaz. A couple of kisses at the end. So yeah, you busted. And Angela's laughing that you busted because your dad's watching and you caught out. So this is a good opportunity to ask how do your family and friends, do you have people that read your books, and do they kind of back away slowly when, you know, if they've annoyed you, do they move back?
Yeah, I actually, when I'm writing a book, I'll send it to normally my sister, chapter by chapter, so it keeps me engaged and keeps me involved and makes me write. Because, you know, if I don't send it to her, she'll hassle me, and she has a yellow highlighter that she'll send me points and stuff via WhatsApp and whatever. But yeah, I will send it to. But it's normally just my sister now. My sister and my dad occasionally, but them.
That's nice. Yeah, my dad is a big plotter. He knows intimately all of my works in progress, and I think he's a little bit freaked out by the sort of juggernaut of a bigger audience, because it is still me and him just walking our dogs and me going, does this sound about right? And like, you know, I sort of only really aim for plausible, but he's quite interesting because he's not a reader. He's an engineer by trade, and he's got that engineer's mind, and he kind of just scans for, like, I suppose, like discrepancies, but he will say, like, why would they do that though? Like, you know, my next book's about a kidnap and ransom, and there's a physical handover, and my dad immediately was like, why would they do that? Why would they take the hostage over? And I was like, oh, they have to for my plot, and we sort of found a way to make it work. But yeah, he's a really good, like, practical thinker.
One of the questions that it used to be my favourite one to ask a long time ago, and then we stopped because, you know, you ask people the same questions all the time and you end up with the same interview. But this week it's come back around, and it's have you ever acted out any scenes just to check that they work? So that sounds kind of a high sort of thing. Sounds like the ideal thing to practice to make sure it works. We've had authors tie themselves to chairs. We've had fights on the end of Whitby Pier to make sure that would work. Jane Isaac buried a pig shoulder in a back garden in concrete to see if it would hold, you know, as it was. And she then dug it up. She then dug it up a year later on a hot day. All the neighbours are having barbecues and they're all out in the gardens, and she didn't realise the rate of decomposition once the oxygen hits. So she's like trying frantically to get this stinky thing out of a garden and not ruin everyone's day. So there's quite a few different things that we've had over the years that come back around. Either of you acted anything, or do you think it could be useful to act something out?
I mean, yeah, I think we couldn't compare with that, surely.
Yeah. Do you know, the weirdest thing happened to me recently, which is my main character in my current book is a chef, and I just made her a chef because it's a novel about a woman who ends up on the run because of what she does during a kidnap and ransom handover to get her daughter back. And I thought it'd be really cool because she's on the run. She can't have any nice food. It's set entirely in the desert in Mexico. And so she's always imagining what food to cook and eat. And I went to work at a restaurant for the day to like sort of to learn about the kitchen, but mostly to talk to the chefs and get in their heads. And during the kidnap and ransom handover, my protagonist realizes her daughter, who's been kidnapped, is in the boot of a car at this physical handover, and she starts tapping the underneath of the boot, like, and my protagonist freaks out. And the weirdest thing happened when I said to the chef, will you tell me something that nobody really knows about being a chef, that's like how it affects your psyche? And I was expecting him to say what he's like at barbecues or like something really mundane. And he goes to me, he's a vegetarian. And he says the reason he's a vegetarian is because everybody thinks that lobsters squeal when they're put in a pan, but they actually tap the lid. And I was like, oh my God, like this metaphor is like made for my book. And it was just the weirdest thing because she was already a chef. And then he just handed me this perfect simile. So it's just funny, isn't it, when you kind of do delve into the research, what kind of comes out.
Wow.
I've got nothing.
So you don't fancy having your wife tie you to a chair and you try and free yourself just to see how it's done?
No, because she'd tie it too tight and I wouldn't get
and
free.
leave you there.
Yeah, that did happen to me once actually. When I was in the police, I was about 19 and I was a gobby little shite. And I can remember they tied me to a chair and left me on the briefing room table as an offering. Anyway.
Oh my word!
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's probably not really allowed.
Yeah.
Sarah asked, what would your internet search history say about you? Which I suppose is a different take on what we discussed earlier about our internet search histories. So what do you think that I think at this point surely it'd just be obvious that you are authors, you are not plotting to, you know,
2 words, private browsing.
Private browsing. How many words for you know better than that can't work properly? You're former police.
As soon as you type something, it's there forever. There's always a digital footprint.
Well, what do you think your histories would say about you? Was Sarah's question.
At the
I'm
moment,
still laughing at you, Dad, that you busted.
Yeah. At the moment, it would be a lot of cricket, occasional BBC, checking Amazon ranks, and looking at Goodreads.
Oh, now that's the dangerous one. Reading your reviews. Do you do that?
I do.
Yeah, I read I did used to read every review.
Until you got to 300 million, thousand billion on.
Yeah, like, but I still do like a sort of. I think it's part of the job. I think it's you know, if 40% of your readership say they don't like the main character, I think I've got to listen to that. But yeah, my publisher once said, and I don't know if this is true, but they said they can tell how many hits they're getting on the NetGalley page for somebody's book. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm going to end up on like Crime Watch, because I was checking NetGalley like at least once a minute. Like, so I was like, my book's going to have like 100,000 a day. And I just sat there like, hopefully nobody will think it's me. They'll just think the book's like super hyped.
But a bad review, bad reviews are probably the best reviews, because they really do help. You know, like Gilly said, you know, if people are saying there's something wrong, then, you know, abusive reviews are pointless. Like if there's someone being abusive, it's just pointless. It doesn't serve a purpose for them or for you. But if someone's actually being constructive, then what's the issue? I'd rather know about it. Yeah,
and that kind of moderate 3-star, I wanted to like it, but I didn't because of this, that's worth listening to, I think. The visceral 1 stars, you know, usually that's sort of the reader's own issue, I think. But yeah, I think I've learned every book, like my most common criticism is pace, and I'm writing the paciest book at the moment, and it's sort of because of some of those reviews, really.
Do you find your chapters change in length when you're writing quicker? So you shorten the chapters down?
Yeah, I do.
Faster
and actually, I don't think anybody really complains about short chapters, so I think the shorter the better.
Yeah.
So mine are all super short in this kidnap book I'm doing.
Which is quite different for you then. But I also think that the 1-star ones that are really funny are the ones where kind of, you know, it came and the cover was bent, 1 star, would give it 0 if I could. I mean, it's not really helpful.
No, my best was for Wrong Place, Wrong Time. I got a 1-star review because they said the plot went backwards. Like they thought it was like the pages were in the wrong order.
I don't even know where to begin with that one.
I know, I was just like, I'm not, like, you're not my audience, like, don't worry about it.
I think that's a good answer. Yeah, this clearly wasn't meant for you. Try this one.
Yeah.
We have got 2 minutes left. So would you both like to give us a recap of the books?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I said, mine was or is After the Storm. It's out now in. I got Sainsbury's, by the way. It's like big for me getting a supermarket. Hurrah! It's in Sainsbury's and Waterstones and all the usual places. It is about 2 families who experience an unimaginable tragedy, and it's the fallout from that for them and for the community that they live in. And we just see how it all pans out and rolls to a unnatural conclusion.
But there is that, yeah. Gillian?
Yeah, my latest is just another missing person. It's sort of like, here it is. It's I got the idea from Line of Duty because I was sort of thinking about police corruption, and that show has police kind of being good or bad, and it's quite sort of, you're one or the other. And I wanted to write a circumstance in which a good person might become corrupt, in that sort of moral quandary way. So it's about that. And yeah, it's out and available everywhere. So yeah, I hope people enjoy it.
Thank you both so much. Thank you to everyone who's watched and for all the comments and questions. And I hope you both come back to talk about future books.
I'm sure we will.
Love to.
We are